Well, it turns out no swearing was needed as I was able to get the hose in position. I don't know if you can see it. I'll point it out with this wire brush. Here's the hose right here and the clamp. I haven't clamped it yet, but I haven't tightened down the clamp. It comes back here. Here's the back end of the hose. And so I had to run around some engine parts, and then it's going to hook onto the back unit here. So now it's time for another thing. What should the other thing be? Well, I think it's time to put the pulley back on. But somebody has turned out the lights up here. I'm just kidding. Somebody messed up my bolts. But it's all good. Alright, so I'm guessing these are balanced and all that stuff for good stuff and stuff, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. This was caked with paint, and there's no way it had any fine-tuned balancing happening. I did mark this to match up with this, but this can turn as much as it wants to while it was off, so there's no way to tell if that's a good place anymore. I didn't really anticipate how difficult it would be to find a hole for my oh, I found a hole. Okay. Well, I think once you find the first hole, it should be pretty easy to find any subsequent holes. And that's proving to be exactly the case. Alrighty. So if you're looking to take off your water pump, as I was starting to say earlier, one thing you have to do pretty early on is free up your alternator. And so this has an adjusting screw here, but it came off of this housing here, so the whole thing is free, quite frankly, really nice and free for me to do what I want to do. So by freeing up your alternator, you can then remove the belt that runs your water pump. And once the belt's off of the water pump, you'll notice that some of these bolts are really tricky to get to with this pulley on. So I chose to remove the pulley in order to get to those bolts a little easier. And with the pulley off, everything was pretty darn easy. You can see this one here is also caked with different layers of paint and stuff. So as far as worrying about how balanced that is, I'm just gonna pretend that it's good enough to work for me. There are tricks to getting this pulley to stay in place. To get this pulley to stay in place while you tighten up those bolts, I didn't use any of those tricks. I just grabbed it with my hand with all my might and tightened it up with my ratchet. Okay, the pulley's on. This groove lines up with this groove, which lines up with this groove. So the belt will go around those 3 pulleys, and as the engine cranks, it will spin the water pump. The water pump will push water through the system, and it'll spin the alternator, and the alternator, once it's spinning, sends power charge back to the battery to keep the battery charged. And this belt's super loose, so I'm going to work on tightening that up. This is my raw water pump, and so there has to be an adjuster that pulls it out, because look how loose that is. So I'll have to look and see where the adjuster is and get this tightened up. I don't think that's okay. I've typed up where the thermostat housing goes. I am going to put that on. I'm going to use that gasket material to put that on. As you saw, I bought the gaskets for this. I'm going to clean these up because there is some spray on them. Get them all cleaned up. Put the intake on here. Right now I'm going to go show you the back part of the cooling system that requires these 2 things. Alright. My air conditioner makes it bearable to live on board. There we go. Choose the correct flip-flops. Close. I'm working on a big shrimping boat down there. That's all the noise you hear. So these gaskets go on to the end of this. One on this end and one on that end. I cleaned it all up, and already these are getting rusty from just sitting out here. This one's close to breaking, so I'm going to treat that with tender loving care, because I do not want it to break. This is just a plug, and in this hole goes my zinc. A zinc, for those of you that do not know, you put a zinc in here and it goes in there, and then as the water runs through, if there's anything like electrolysis or whatever, it'll eat up the zinc instead of destroying the metal. And so the zinc is $6 and this thing is hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So it's a sacrificial zinc. You throw it in there and you let it burn out, and then you buy a new one and keep replacing it for $6 each time. The caps to these are inside. I still have to clean them up. I just wanted to show you what's happening out here. So there's still three major pieces to go on. This is the back part of the cooling system. There's some clamps. There's the old thermostat. That's no good, so I'm not going to reuse it. This is not a major part, but it's a hose that I painted black. It's been black, and it's been red, and it's been blue. So I'm just thinking back to black. But I don't know. Who cares about hoses, right? And then the last major part to go on, I've already brought it aboard. It's on this air conditioner back here. This is the fresh water. Well, it's actually the exhaust manifold. So these bolt on to the exhaust ports. It's upside down right now, but anyway, so that's what's got to happen. I do think I'll take a block and some sandpaper and block sand these. They also got some paint on them, but they're pitted and they're gouged, and so I might need to find some orange goop anyway, just to orange goop them up, and then use also those gaskets on them as well. So that's where I'm sitting, and I'm sitting on my boat right now, actually, as far as sitting goes. It's nice up here, generally speaking. There's a nice breeze that comes through. I did put a tarp up to try to stop the rain from getting inside the boat. It hasn't done the best job, but I imagine it's done a little bit. It's done a little bit of job. I can see it keeps pulling away from here, so it's not the best tarp job that I've done, but theoretically when it rains it'll go on the tarp and run off instead of trying to come in my boat. This is where Junior lives, is in this river, this little finger, little bayou. And most of the time he's down that way, and then we'll see him come grooving up slowly. That's why I call him Old Flat Top. Here comes Old Flat Top, he come grooving up slowly. If I get copyrighted for that, who are they gonna give the copyright to? Chuck Berry, who was the originator of that line, or the Beatles, who maybe are a little more famous for using that line? I don't know if you know this or not, but Chuck Berry sued the Beatles for copyright infringement for using that line. Okay, that's the end of this one. Thanks for watching.